Hello, we are charting the higher octave with Brooklyn's, New York's bass artist, Robert Pepper, whose project is called Musique, which he founded in 1995. It's an electronic experimental project, I guess you could say. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here
Yeah. And you're all the way in New York, in Brooklyn, right?
in Brooklyn, New York. Yes, born and raised, actually.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few here that are born and raised here, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just
Oh, really?
admiring, besides being a musician, I know you're also an artist, so I can't help but notice the beautiful artwork behind you.
Correct. I'm a painter. I do music, painting, and I make films as well. Probably less of the later, so less films. But I don't know. I just look at it as all the same, It's like where the creative energy goes, and I like to experiment with different formats. And so yeah, like I guess I started as a painter, an artist.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. How did you start? I know it's got to be painting first. I just feel it was painting first.
Painting first. Yeah. Well, painting first, it's easier to pick up a paintbrush with canvas than it is to learn how to do a mixing board or a guitar or
Mhm.
something like this, or a keyboard in my case. So yeah, I started painting and for years and years I painted and actually, what really sparked my interest in making music was a project called Zoviet France. And since then, I've actually become really good friends with one of the members, Robin Story. But
Mm.
I just heard their music, which is kind of abstract, industrial, electronics, kind of more art based. And I was like, wow, I found out what a 4-track was. And I was like, wow, you can just record tracks and just any sound and just go over them and make compositions. So that's really what started me off on the path. I guess before that I had a guitar, but it wasn't, I wasn't that into it that much. But when I heard that you could do that, I bought an old Tascam 4-track and I bought some whatever I could find, like delay pedal, because I use delays all the time. Used my guitar for the delays and just started recording sounds and just loop by loop. And I don't know if you go to my Bandcamp page all the way down, the first like 3 releases there are that kind of thing, more abstract stuff. And so yeah, that really sparked my interest was Zoviet France actually, and how they actually made those tracks. Now everybody does it, and it's so much easier with digital kind of format things like this.
Mhm.
But I was blown away, and I immediately started cranking out different things and learning more about it, jumping in. And I don't know, I just look at that as a like art and music the same way.
Yeah,
Tones and color and frequencies, it's just how
yeah,
recognizing them,
yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, so some people have that gift. Some people can just be a musician and that's it. Some people are like they blend their musical talent and their visual talent and all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
I try.
No,
You
that's
know.
that's great. I mean, it's not common to find so many people with that with various. I mean, how do you even find the time?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I just don't like to waste time. I think that's what I tell everybody, don't waste time, We were just chatting before this about me not having a cell phone and, to
Yeah, I
me
know.
it
I
takes a
couldn't
lot,
believe. I can't believe.
takes a lot of time. I do have an iPad at home to do all this stuff
Uh,
and organize, but I find myself on there so much and that's my rule. Don't waste time, you spend over 10 minutes on Instagram,
no, no, that's probably true.
whatever it is.
The phone, like the cell phone, just took over. People's time. Really, instead of a
Yeah,
conversations with a person, you're on the phone, right? And the person's right there. I mean,
exactly.
you're probably that's probably really smart.
Yeah,
Everybody get rid of their cell phone.
it's not, I'm not knocking technology. It's just like you gotta know how to use it and limits to everything. I love cake, but I don't eat a cake every day. You know what I mean?
I know,
Like
I know.
you can
It's
be on the cell
addicting, but you have you can stop yourself right from being that getting that addiction.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That's hard for most people. That's why
Yeah.
they can't put their phone down.
But yeah, I don't waste time. I mean, I have a day job as well. I work in technology, and but I have the ability to, with the help of caffeine, probably too, with to just kind of close my laptop for my day job and then jump into music or art or whatever, and just kind of go for whatever's in my head at the time, and sometimes I have to meditate on it, to calm down and then figure out where I'm going. But after that, to kind of lose the day kind of thing, the thoughts in my head. But yeah, like right now, actually it's like probably less music now because now, I've done like a few releases with people, and so I'm focusing more on art now for a couple of shows coming up. um Tomorrow night actually is a live show, but I'm not playing until like September when I do the tour. But tomorrow night I'm playing downtown New York with Martin BC and Genevieve Camel Morris and another project called Two Rooms. It's very different than the new Pas Musique stuff. It's more of the going back to the original kind of ideas of abstract sound and composition.
Mm.
But I just look at sound. I don't know. I used to look at music and genres. Now I just think about it as organized sound. It's all the same to me. It was actually kind of hard to kind of do more beat oriented song structure stuff for me. Not because it was hard, because it was technically hard, but I just felt like, everyone kind of knows me for the abstract stuff, and like, so I start doing more structured stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, it's a different direction, but I guess I don't care, I'm like, I just want to be creative in that respect and change myself. And, so, I don't know. I don't know. It seems like I'm getting good reception for the new release.
Yeah, so this new release, which is gonna be coming out on July 16 via our Relon Music. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
All Relon music. Yeah. Made up word. Yeah.
Okay. Really? Okay. And the album is called Come Follow Me.
Correct.
Yeah, and that will be coming out. It's a tribute, in fact, to the great Frank Tovey of Fat Gadget. So tell us about that. I know he's definitely an inspiration to your music.
Absolutely. I've always had eclectic taste. So even back then, when I was hooked on to Soviet France, I'd be listening to Frank Tovey and Fat Gadget and some metal and some punk and, just about everything. As I said, I look at it as just sound, organized sound. But a friend of mine, ex-girlfriend, Jacqueline Hillenbrand, she turned me on to Frank and Fat Gadget a long time ago, and it stuck with me ever since. And when I was thinking of doing more song structured things, that was like, I'd really love to do something like that. And then I have started to buy some older vintage Roland synthesizer boutiques. They have the same
Mm.
sounds, bigger ones. And that was like, yeah, maybe that's the direction I want to go, and just kind of channel Frank and Fat Gadget. And I love the Civilian album, because he kind of went from, the synth pop, little avant-garde experimental, and then he went and mixed it in with folk and even more noisy stuff. So like, you get to the middle of that album, and it's like a Irish folk song. God, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but then it breaks into pure noise, but it still has the beat and the acoustic guitar. And I was just like, wow, what a great combination,
Yeah.
of different things. And that's kind of where my head's at, going from abstract stuff to like more beat oriented electronic stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still play his music on the dance floor, Collapsing You People, Lady Shave. I love that one, you know.
Yeah, it's rare to find that here in the club. Sometimes they play it, but man, I got to go to Hawaii in one of your nights. Frank,
Are you
you can.
really? Really? I would think more people. Well, I'm really old school. I love this. I love things from the past.
Yeah, yeah,
There's nothing else. I mean, it's different now, of course. I
yeah.
mean, there's still a lot of great music out there, but I guess it's growing up in that during that time and just, you know, experiencing it. It's like you can't really escape it, right?
No, no,
Mm.
it's fresh in your head.
Yeah. Well, this album, I so far you released two singles. How many songs will be in And
There are 7, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's an
so,
intro, outro, and 5 songs, I think. Yeah. So
so you released the title track, "Come Follow Me," right? You released that single. Yeah.
correct.
And "Too Civilized," which is interesting. You spoke a little bit about it here in your press release about
Yes.
the concept of "too civilized."
Mhm.
It's a concept in regard to how the human civilization tricks itself into thinking that we are perfect, and
Yes.
we all have that solution. And I'm just thinking of how the internet like kind of deceives you, to thinking, how you can go on social media now and you could change your put a lipstick on you if you don't have lipstick, and kind of transform your look for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And everything, everything in internet land on everybody's social media page is usually on the positive side. Like, I'm doing great and here I
Yeah,
am, and
yeah, yeah,
you
exactly.
are,
Yeah.
but occasionally somebody will post something. Usually it's tragic, but yeah, nobody posts the bad things, and so yeah, more and more it's like everyone's got this great, I'm doing so well kind of profile where you're not. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone's human. You go in your ups and downs.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. But it makes it, is that what you're talking? I don't know if that's what you were talking. That's what I was thinking of when I read your,
That is one aspect. I mean,
yeah.
there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, as a whole, I think the human race thinks, oh yeah, we're so great, with technology and all this kind of thing. But I don't know. I think we're missing a lot. I think we're missing a lot from our roots and just being human, going into ourselves, kind of thing. We're too focused on what's out here, you know. I'm big into like Hermetic philosophy and things like this, and touch on Buddhism and occult stuff. So, that also references that statement for that
Mm,
song. But it's not all out here. It's in here.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
put down your phones and go out and I don't know, walk in the park or something. And you learn things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Sometimes, sometimes the way that things are designed now is just I mean, when do you have time for yourself, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you constantly have to feel like you have to catch up with everybody else.
There was a time, it was a couple of weeks ago. I have a garden outside. I'm fortunate in New York to have a garden. And I
Really?
was just,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I love gardening. Oh my God. Oh, I'll send you a picture of my garden later on. But
Yeah, I
so
would
I
love
was
to see that.
sitting in the middle of the garden and I literally, the sun was coming down. I closed my eyes and I just was thinking about like kind of what to do next. I was like, oh yeah, I can't remember, maybe it was art. I was thinking about what I was going to do. So I just kind of was meditating in the garden. And my wife came out and she's like, are you okay? What are you doing? I was like, thinking about what to do next. She's like, oh, okay. Like, that's a little weird. I was like, well, you got to slow down and you got to figure it out in your head, just, it can't be distracted by everything around me all the time. So, yeah, too civilized. That's kind of the gist of it, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
You produce like so many albums here. If people want to check out your Bandcamp page, Pop Musique. So PASMUSIQUE, and I'll post that, of course, on the link. But I mean, this is like going back, and you collaborated with so many people, right? And
Yes, I have. That's I like to do all sorts of combinations. Pas Musique, it was an open collective till about like maybe 6 years, 7 years ago. It's always been John Worthley with me. He kind of jumped on board years ago, and we go back and forth. He's usually does studio stuff these days. He doesn't really play live, but we are working on a new one together that's just solely going to be videos with soundscapes. And I don't plan to play any of this live. It's just going to be filmed in movie theaters, I think, or screened in movie theaters.
mm,
Um, but I also lately have been working with Robin Story from Rapoons, Oviatt, France. As I said, we've become friends over the years. We have a bunch of releases out with him, and that's more abstract kind of stuff. I mean, the stuff before Come Follow Me was with John and Michael Durick and Jesse Fairbairn when we were a 4-piece. And
that's
that's more
Shaman,
of
right? Is that
I'm
Shaman?
sorry?
You're talking about Shaman?
Not Shaman, it was the Phoenix and Amateur Radio. Those two were the 4-piece, and we did tour Europe a few times with that, and that's more on kind of electronic krautrock style.
Mm.
Yeah, 'cause that's kind of how it worked with us at the time.
Yeah, there's one here I was looking at. I really liked it. I think you were working with uh the the first official heavy metal band. You were talking to one of the founders, I guess, from Iran, right?
Oh yeah,
You
Agal
were working.
Bahari,
Yeah. So
super great guy.
how did you collaborate with him?
Uh, oh man, his story is complicated, but like he, from what I understand, was kicked out of Iran for playing metal music. He's apparently one of the first metal bands. Then he had to find somewhere to go. Then he went to Malaysia, and then he started like a Frank Zappa cover band. I got you, correct me if I'm
Wow.
wrong, but then he got kicked out of there for doing that, and I think he wound up in Canada. And then, so I used to, oh, I still run a night called Ambient Chaos with experimental electronic music, but that was hosted at a place called Spectrum here in New York. And it was at a loft space run by Glenn Cornett. And Glenn was friends with Aga. And so
Oh.
Aga came down from Canada to play in Spectrum, and we hit it off. And yeah, we started collaborating and back and forth from Canada. And we came up with that CD. Funny thing about that, we wanted to play a gig together in Toronto, and so I flew up there and met a guy, and we hung out. It was great, and it was supposed to be at this Universal Church, and it was like a Sunday, and they wanted us to do like an ambient set for like 40 minutes, and then they were going to do their chat or whatever, and so I go there with all my gear. We're all excited. We set up. It was a beautiful hall. There was like maybe 150 people there. And we're like, we set up on the tables, and we go to the guy, where do we plug in our mixer? And he's like, I don't know. And we're like, well, what do you mean? It's electronic music, And the guy's like, oh boy, let me check, And he's like, oh, I think this microphone runs into the room where the other system is. And he's like, can you just use the one microphone? I was like, no, we need to plug in somewhere. So I was like, well, don't you have a tech guy? And the guy's like, no, he's it's Sunday, he doesn't work today. I was like, well,
Oh
what do
God.
you think? We're electronic music. You're crazy. So
Gosh.
we tried to figure it out. Nobody could get a PA, whatever. And it was a shame. There's a lot of people there, and they were
Mm.
gonna be super into it, and it's a pretty
God.
good vibe, And so a guy, he was kind of annoyed, and I mean, so was I, and we were like, listen, if you don't have a PA, you don't have a way to amplify, we can't play. So we pack up and we're walking out. We just about to get in the elevator, and the elevator just about closed, and the guy like puts his hand in, opens the doors, and he goes, I'm so sorry about this, but here's your check. And the elevator closed, and we got off. We got off. I looked at the check, and he like paid us for pretty well for the gig that we didn't play.
Oh, wow. That's really good though.
So we
You got
never got to play Toronto, unfortunately, together. I mean, we played before at Spectrum, but it was just such a bizarre kind of thing,
That's
just
really
going to a
interesting.
gig.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well, I mean, you packed up and went there, so that's a lot of that's a lot, to do
Yeah.
for one.
Yeah.
So that's good. He paid.
Yeah, it was good. He's paid. I was just looking at the crowd. I was like, well, looks like a decent crowd, and it's not it's a different crowd than we normally play for, which is what I love. I love to play for people who just really don't know this music, and but
Yeah,
they
open the
like
ride.
an impression. Yeah, open their mind exactly.
Yeah, so that album that we're talking about here is Temporary Altered State of Consciousness.
Correct.
That was in 2019, just recently, in fact. Well, that's not too far back.
Well, yeah, not too far back. Yeah,
And then you have another album here. It's let's see, what was that? Shaman, I think. Shaman. It's an album about transformation.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that was the first album that I was doing solo after the guys we kind of split up, before COVID. But before that I did it I think it was before that I did a solo tour in the States with that album.
Hmm.
And that's when I started kind of doing more recognizable tracks, I think, solo tracks instead of just doing improvisations. And yeah, as I said, I'm into a lot of different philosophy and things like that. And it was kind of shaman transformation is also like, maybe it's going to be solo time,
I mean,
because
were you going through transformation yourself?
well, I mean, it was the band was a four-piece,
Oh, okay.
transformation to a solo act. COVID came around, all of that, what do you do? The whole world shut down.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm always going through transformations.
I know.
I
Are we
think
all?
it's like
Yeah.
change and change and change. And I think that's the whole point, right? It's really, it's transformation happens all the time, and you can't get away from it.
That's true. Yeah. So some people experience it worse than others, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we don't like change, right? But we have to go through it sometimes.
exactly. I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of the idea of maybe a shaman is to kind of guide you through it, maybe, and that's what I feel like any one of the things anyways. Um, but yeah, so that was an interesting solo record that I was doing. And as I said, I'm into a lot of kind of esoteric philosophy. I came out, well, what I did with my paintings years ago was I made a whole tarot deck.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
and
Oh,
so, yeah, tarot paintings about this big, and I did all 80. Well, actually, there's 78 in the deck, but I did 80 because there are two field paintings that were in the deck. But I based it off the Swiss 1JJ deck that my mom gave me. I had growing up, and she gave that to me, and I actually made a film about it, making my own deck. And I never had my card reads, and I documented it on
hmm.
film first time by a friend of mine, Ariel. And when he did the reading, it was kind of boring, to be honest. So he was like, "Ah, you're a grounded person. You're blah blah blah." And I was like, "Well, I can't really make this as something interesting as
You're
a
a grounded person.
documentary." Thankfully, I didn't have drama, but I was like, maybe I'll make into a fictional kind of movie. And I did. So I roped in the seven principles of Hermeticism and I assigned them to an artist and went and filmed them. They talked about it. I got Ariel, who's a guy who read my deck as a 32nd level Mason, and he gave me a tour of Masonic Hall in Connecticut and explained everything. And then I was like, well, let's make this more of like a character base, like kind of play with the fun part of this kind of thing instead of the serious part. So he's kind of a funny guy in the film. But
Oh,
so yeah, I mean, and also the score is done by myself and Robin Story from Rapoon, from one of our CDs releases, and that was a long time in the making, actually. Yeah, that was
so when you perform, I guess in these places, right? Do you incorporate your artwork and your visuals and behind you or somewhere in the music?
I have in the past with video, but what I found more interesting is when I do tours, especially now solo, I bring my paintings with me. So at that time, when I did the tarot deck, I did a whole tour of the US and I would lay out all the cards on the floor and just have people come up and pick them up and look at them and
So they're
just
like, what size did you say the? Oh,
say 8 by 10, something like this.
so it's
Yeah.
kind of like abstract. Your version.
Uh, they're a mix. So I started with the first 10 more abstract, but then I started to make them a little bit more realistic after a while. And there's a progression in the deck, and you could obviously.
Oh, interesting. That's a transformation.
Yeah, I mean, transformation, you can talk, you have all these connections in my art transformation. Yeah. And I don't know, some of them I think needed it more than others. I think the minor arcana was the most fun to do because it was the more abstract,
God,
that
that's a lot of work. I mean, is it oil?
no, I work in acrylics. I used to work in oil until I got lovebirds, and I hear that the oil fumes are terrible for them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I started working in acrylics. But I mean, I miss oils, but I don't know if I would go back to it because I think I've kind of really got my groove with
Yeah, I would
this.
love to see those tarot decks, paintings. I mean,
Yeah, they're
they're
all on my
interesting.
website too. I'll
Oh, they
send you.
are okay. I'll
Uh,
go. Yeah, your website. I do have your website here.
mhm.
Um, Yes, if people want to check that out, is pamusique.net. PA.
Actually, that's the music one. There's an
Okay.
art one, which is www.robertlpepper.net. And that's where you can find the art and the movies. So, yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, you have to give that to me so I can add it in to the link.
sure, sure
Yeah.
thing, sure thing.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of these. Yeah, wow. So inspiring. Yeah, it makes me
Thank
wanna now it makes me want to get a paintbrush and uh and do all the things that you do. I don't know if I have that time to do it. I mean, that's a lot of work, really to get all that together and you have
Well, I mean, baby steps.
well, you have to also be like motivated, so you must have a lot of passion
I
to
do.
to-
I do. Yeah. I
In
mean,
fact,
I can't stay still.
I know you meditate, you were saying in your garden, right? You do
I do.
meditate out there. Yeah. So one of your albums also, which I found interesting, is called The Great Work and 33 Steps.
Correct.
And
That's the
that album,
title of the film.
oh, that's a
Yeah.
film. Okay. That's
That's my film about the tarot deck that I made, that I have Ariel and the seven principles of Hermeticism and the
oh,
Masonic
okay.
um
But that
tour.
album too was designed to induce meditation states of the mind, right?
That album, yeah, well, with the beats, because there's a lot of repetition there with beats. So
Oh,
yes, that is one part of that, and a lot of the samples in that album are from the film of people talking about things. So yeah, it was a little different for me for that. That's not the soundtrack of the film, but that's what came out of the film for me musically. So it was a kind of different approach, right? Usually you make music and then you put it in the film. Well, I made music after I made the film. So, a different approach for that. And yeah, I was playing with a lot of beats and I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to sample my own film and put things in there and see what would work out with it. So, yeah, that
well,
was totally different approach. Yeah, yeah, I'm not afraid of trying things different. I just I get bored with stuff easily too. And then I'm like, what can I do with this? It's always a transformation of process. There you go again.
yeah. So this album, it's gonna be released July 16th. Come Follow Me.
Yes,
This is gonna be released on the label. It,
correct. All along.
yeah. How long? Can you tell us about that label?
Yeah, well, Al Verlan is half my baby and half Philippe Gerber's baby, who does John 3:16. And
Oh,
I used to just
oh yeah.
release my own music and do my own festival in Brooklyn called the Experimental Festival. And I met him a long time ago, and I was like, well, let's team up. We're both kind of doing similar things, and then, we can help each other. And so, yeah, I signed up for Au Revoir Musique, and from there, we've released, oh God, I don't know how many. I think it's up to 137 releases, usually experimental
Mhm.
music, all sorts. We have like Black Saturn, who does experimental rap. We have avant-garde electronics from Russia, which is Artemisia. John 3:16, which is more like of a experimental metal, kind of really dark kind of stuff. Um, yeah, we got Rapoons on there.
Yeah.
Electronics. I mean, it's basically just friends that we come across or people that we want to support, and we just both are fortunate enough to pump out a few releases a year and try to promote them. The next one's going to be a French artist, Matthew Silvestre, who I'm touring with in September. So we're going to release his tape for that tour.
Oh,
And
where are you guys touring?
we are touring in the US, East Coast, Northeast, Midwest, yeah, Midwest, and then back around again up the East Coast. So we're doing a
Oh,
loop. I think it was 15 shows or 15 or 16. Well, there's a couple that still need to be confirmed, but all sorts of places, mainly DIY. Some are bigger places, some are
so
smaller.
you're gonna be touring with this album, right?
I
This.
will be
Oh,
touring with similar styles of this album. I actually have 4 or 5 new songs that I'm going to be doing in that style.
okay.
How I work is a little backwards, maybe. Is I usually write stuff and then I tour. Well, not really. Yeah, I guess I write stuff and then I tour and then I record, and then I'm done with it.
Wow.
And then right now I've written stuff. I started performing it, and now I want to do a full tour. And then when I get back, then that's when I'll record it and then just put it out, like this. From what I understand, and I don't really know them so well, the Grateful Dead may have done something like this where they would just play all the time, then record and go on to the next thing.
Oh
But
yeah.
not like that's my influence, but somebody mentioned this to me that they would do things like this.
I mean, are there any new directions or styles that you're interested in exploring in the future
Um,
that you never tried yet?
it's a good question. I mean, I will have some more music, more really experimental avant-garde stuff coming out with Robin from Raccoon. We just recently did 2 sessions and a live gig in Newcastle, United Kingdom. So that'll be out
Uh-huh.
probably next year sometime. Um, And I don't know, I'm thinking about the tour, I'm thinking about the new songs, and so that's on my mind right now. And then probably when I get back from the tour, that's when I'll be like, okay, what now?
Mhm.
So
What's the next painting or what's the next film?
well, yeah, I mean, Matthew Silvestre and I do have a session booked for Martin BC Studio when we get back from the tour, I believe. So that might be something. So I think that's going to have a lot to do with him sampling me playing and then reprocessing it with me playing. So that'll be probably more on the experimental noise side. Yeah, something like this. So. Yeah. But
Wow.
that's
You're really busy.
yeah, usually busy.
Let me see. I mean, can you share a story about one of your most experimental tracks, I guess? Yeah,
Sh-
you probably have a lot. Just by
yeah,
yeah, there's things that you
share a story. Well, maybe I won't share a track, but I long time ago when I was just more experimenting with sound, I had the idea of using blow up animals as sound producers. So I bought a 6 foot blow up zebra and I put like maybe 8 contact microphones all over it. And I routed it through different effects pedals into a mixer. And I started doing performances like this. And that became a solo performance for a while. And then after that, I incorporated that into Pas Musique on a tour in Germany and the Avant-Garde Festival, which was 2010, which is Faust's
oh,
Avant-Garde
interesting.
Festival in their farm. Jean Hervé, love this dude. And so I did that live with I think it was the first one was with Vultures. It was Palm Music Vultures. There was all this percussion. There was and the zebra was in the front of everybody, and I was doing sounds on it,
Oh,
reprocessing and stuff. And then years later, I did an orchestra. So I played a gig in Washington, D.C. at Sonic Circuits Festival, and I assigned 10 local artists a blow up animal. And I said, okay, you have to figure out a way to generate sound, and I'm going to orchestrate it. So I went down and I had an orchestra of 10 of these people making weird sounds off of blow up animals. And I was at the mixer and like telling people what to do. We would do solos, duos, trios. Um, and then I started becoming, the noise guy who does blow up animals, and I didn't like. I was like, okay, it was fun. Now I'm gonna squash it and I'm gonna move on.
well, that's an experiment, right? Uh,
Exactly. It's
And it
totally,
worked. It
and
worked.
it did work.
Yeah.
And if you're into noise music, anyone out there, like get yourself a blow up animal, contact mic it up. It's a load of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So
Um,
this album, and of course, big shout out to Shameless Promotion PR.
yes, they're amazing. They're
Yeah,
amazing.
amazing.
I lost track of what Shameless was doing for me. They keep sending me stuff. It's like, wow. It's like, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, you're a busy guy. You've got all these. You can incorporate anything just about. I think. Yeah, in fact, you didn't tell me what that painting was about behind you.
So that's right. So let me lift it up a little bit more. Okay, so this painting I did in around 9/11, and I actually started it before that. And I worked downtown Manhattan, and of course, when it happened, they closed up all downtown, and I was home for about a month. And this is before we anyone could work from home, right? And so I was like, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, I started this big painting and I actually painted it on my wall here. And that basically took me about a month. That's what I worked on. And that's actually oil. So that was at the time when I was still doing oils. It was displaying a couple of cafes in New York and Jersey, if I remember correctly. This is a long time ago, but
Also, that's on canvas.
that is on unstretched canvas.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I thought it was you painted it right on your wall.
No, no, it's
Oh,
canvas. And I have a bunch of paintings where they're unstretched and I just put grommets in them
uh-huh.
and hang them that way. That was my thing for years, up until about a
Yeah,
year ago before I
beautiful.
started painting on. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's called Dominique's Release, and it was an acquaintance that we knew who died in 9/11 in the tower.
Oh,
So
wow,
I
that's
thought
a
it
beautiful
was
tribute to her.
yeah, yeah, it was appropriate. I mean, I didn't know her that well, but I was like, okay, this is a great idea.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful to put. Oh, wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so I did that. That's the biggest I've ever made, mainly because I don't have the room for these things. So
Well, you must have a big studio somewhere.
I do not that I painted that on the wall in the living room and it's still
Oh,
there. So I usually paint smaller. And I usually become really creative on where to store things. So yeah, I live in an apartment, so it's like a most New York artist, right? Yeah,
yeah.
creative of how
Well,
you.
you have a garden, so that's a big deal.
I would I could live in a small little room with nothing as long as I have a garden.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah, definitely.
So, how do you see the future landscape for electronic and experimental music?
Um, well, I mean, it's tricky, right? For all of this stuff with technology, and Spotify and all these things, all these services, even Bandcamp. I mean, Bandcamp's a nice platform for artists, not really Spotify so much, but like um more people are just listening online. More people are listening for free and they're not buying stuff. So I don't know, it's the world has become really commercialized in general. And I mean, at one point, one thing you look at it, you are getting back to kind of communities, that are playing for each other and all that kind of thing. But, not, it's hurting a lot of artists like financially, with all
Yeah.
the, you know, and I don't know, it's like definitely more online based stuff, I guess, the touring helps, but it's a lot of money to tour. Um, so what I do see more actually is in the noise community, all these festivals that it's very community run in all these different cities
Yeah,
and
a lot of community based people getting together and doing things, right?
which is wonderful, which
Yeah.
is cool. And
And
and it's mostly free stuff and maybe throw somebody a couple of bucks for a tape or CD, but even that, the less people are buying or printing and things like this. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many things coming out now. Everything is just changing so quickly, you know. So
it is.
I just wonder about electronic and experimental music, how it's gonna evolve through all the changes that we're going through with technology. And
I mean, I think it's going to be more community based, and it has to be, right?
yeah,
Because people still want to create, and that's the whole point. So, you're going to have smaller gigs and but more community doing it, and hopefully more people hosting shows. I've
yeah.
tried.
I mean, yeah,
I
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot
Me
of
too. I love that. You know, I love to do. I'm just like you. I'm an artist, and I love to do things. I can't just sit here and do nothing.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I can't just go to my full-time job and come home and watch TV. That's not me, you know. I jump
That's
into something immediately, and I'm never stop working. So,
yeah.
um, so that's
Well, I'd love to come to Hawaii one day.
I know you never been here before.
I have not, and I would love.
Okay, yeah, you got to put that in your list.
What island are you on?
Oahu,
Hmm.
Honolulu.
Okay. Yeah.
For you being an artist and everything, you may want to explore the other islands as well too, because you would probably find inspiration there
Yeah.
for one of your works.
Yeah.
And
I love nature.
I'm
So
pretty sure you will.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
mate, we'll have to make this happen.
thank you so much for joining me and doing this interview and sharing all your art and your philosophy and your music. And so this album, which is coming out, and I know you're already working on some stuff, right? Or you're gonna perform it and then do an album, something, right? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I mean, I may perform a couple of those songs on tour. It has yet to be determined what I'm doing, but I do have 4 new songs that I definitely want to do, and
Okay,
maybe
but
I'll
it's not in this album.
No, 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 no,
Yeah, okay.
not as I said, I have the idea, I tour with it, I come back and record it, and
Oh,
then I'm done with it. I do it the opposite way.
oh, that's good. That in a way that's a good thing because if you get good reception from it, right?
Yeah,
Then you would proceed.
that's one way to look at it.
Or,
Yeah.
or you can twist it. You can try to change it around because after a while, when you start performing, you go, "Oh, I don't like that. I don't like how I did that. I'm going to change it this way."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. That's genius. That's smart.
Yeah.
Everybody should listen to this interview and take note.
Well, it's just a different way to think about it, you
Yeah,
know. I
sometimes it
know
works.
people go to shows and they want to hear something that they know and things like that, but I don't know if the crowd that listens to my stuff thinks that way. Maybe some people do. And I've gone through so many changes of music in the year. I mean, if you go back and listen to one of the first one, like Electric Rain, and then compare it to Come Follow Me, you'll be like, is this the same person? But I think that's what an artist does. You have to reinvent yourself. I mean, hey, Frank Tovey reinvented himself several times, you
Yeah,
know. In my opinion, he did great on everything, you know. So,
I'm definitely going to be thinking of Frank Toby when I hear your music when it comes out on July 16th. I think I
great.
only got 2 tracks, so
Yeah, the first one, Come Follow Me, was the first track that came out with the video. And the video was a lot of fun, actually. I'll talk about that just for a sec. That I put out like a crowdsourcing kind of thing and
Mhm.
had people send in like a 30-second video. And I think I had something like 25 or 30 people that sent me video, and that's how it was edited through everyone's contribution of how they would interpret the track. And I had friends from all over send it in, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun
So
to see.
do you do your own film? I mean, you record it yourself and all that, and you edit it yourself?
Yeah, I can record it, edit,
Uh-huh.
and all that. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
you're so busy. That's a lot of work.
If you go to the robertlpepper.net and you go to videos, then there's a bunch of experimental film that I've done. And one of my good friends, Carrie Burt, like he was an influence of kind of doing that. And also Trent Harris, who did the Beaver trilogy. I mean, I just love these really underground kind of filmmakers. And they kind of, they're just like, hey, if you want to make a film, just, I don't know, grab what you have, grab a cell phone, grab a crappy camera and just do it. And get your friends and, I don't know, get your dog, get an idea and just make something. Don't be afraid that you need to have all this like ritzy fancy equipment, just do underground stuff.
Yeah,
That's where a lot of good art comes from.
right. Absolutely. And then it would just manifest to something else, after you do it. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you. It's a pleasure speaking with you and
My
learning a little bit
pleasure.
more about you and your work and your many facets, your
I
creativity.
think I do too much. I need to relax.
Yeah. Well, do you take vacations?
I do. I do.
Okay.
We have one set up for London in a couple of weeks. Yeah, and that's just going to be solely to see friends. So that's going to
Okay,
be a
good.
lot
You're
of
not working at all, right? Because some people take vacations, but they're not really. They're actually working with the vacation.
I am not working. No, this
It's
is an
all right.
official vacation where I'm not working from home, weird place or whatever.
Because you have to quiet your mind and just relax, and then you
Exactly.
become more, and then you get more inspiration when you kind of rest a little bit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. All
Good.
right. Well, thank you very much. We're looking forward to your release, July 16. Come Follow Me is the album, Pas Musique, and Robert Pepper here. Thank you for joining me, and good luck. Good
Thank
luck.
you so much. It's been great, and have a great rest of your weekend.